Hey, a very good evening and welcome to the channel ABCD, Anybody Can Do Research Methodology. Well, today is the first day of the season 3. And this particular season, as promised, I have my international guests with me to talk about the different aspect of research methodology at its most simplest way. Well, today, the guest that I have with me is Professor Dr. Yu Hock, a very seasoned and eminent professor in Malaysia, a very seasoned researcher, and with him, we'll be discussing today uh, on the aspect of the problem statement where the students or researcher usually really faces a big problem, a big hurdle in whatever they want to do in their research. So first of all, I take this opportunity to welcome my international guest today, Prof. U. And thank you very much, Prof, to have given us the time to be here and to share your thoughts with my international viewers. And I mean, a Chinese New Year is just happened. As a Happy New Year to you, Prof. And I really welcome you here. So we want to listen from you, Prof, about the problem statement. Prof.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Ashif, and congratulations to you on your recent appointment as a full professor. I'm very, very glad for you. And that's a Chinese New Year present. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof.
The issue of students and, in fact, researchers doing research according to your simplified version of A, B, C, D, anybody can do, is actually a very good approach. But the problem lies with when a student or a researcher starts writing and starts describing what the problem is. So in short, a section, one of the most important section in writing a research is you call it a statement of the problem or in short problem statement. Now let me put it in a very simple way like your ABCD. When you go and see a doctor, the doctor asks you what's wrong. You say, I'm sick, I'm ill, I'm not feeling well. So, what does the doctor do? The doctor would either ask you some questions or he would then say, I take your temperature, so on and so forth. So, you are sick, you are ill. Is that a problem? To me, if I ask you to write about sickness, illness as a statement of the problem, and you would describe, I'm not feeling well, I have headache, my temperature is high, I don't like to eat, I feel vomiting. So all these other explanations would come into your concept of illness or sickness. So what's the problem? The problem more normally when you start writing is sickness. But actually, sickness is symptomatic of the problem of headache, vomiting, can't eat, can't sleep, or whatever else. Now, so this is just an analogy. Let me put it this way. It is easy to say I have a problem because I am ill, but it is more difficult to say I have headache, I'm vomiting, I don't have appetite, and you start describing this as your statement of the problem. And suddenly, at the end of the day, most students would say the objective of writing my problem of being sick is I need to cure my headache. So, okay, this analogy, we will not take it further. It is meant for you to think. If you are sick, is that illness a symptom or is it a problem? To me, that is a symptom. Your problem will be those manifestations of your sickness, headache, so on and so forth. Okay, let me put then in the context of explaining writing a research problem. For example, you take a subject like HRM, Human Resource Management. What's the problem? There is a staff turnover. Then the student or the researcher starts writing the staff turnover because many of the employees leave the organization for various reasons. There is high turnover, there is absenteeism, whatever reasons you give. And as you continue to write, you think that that is the problem. But in my interpretation, that is only a symptom of the problem because staff turnover directly or indirectly affects what I call the problem. The problem being the productive processes is disrupted. So if many staff leave the organization, the productive process in the organization is disrupted. And because of this disruption, okay, the end result is productivity is affected. Then what is the outcome? If productivity is affected, then if you are serving your client might not receive your service or the product on time. So the turnover, staff turnover is not the problem. It is the disruption of the productive process within the organization that results in loss of productivity, that results in clients having a late delivery of products and services. So as the students start writing, they don't concentrate on this. At the end of the day, they will end up writing, the aim of my research is to solve the problem of turnover. And the aim, the objective of my study is to make sure that products to clients are delivered. But what's the problem? The problem is these two ends are disrupted because the staff are not enough. They left and this productive process. So that's an example of why many students fail to explain explicitly the actual problem, but they look at the symptom at the beginning, they look at the result, and they look at the outcome. Okay, that is for HRM. Now, if I can give another example from government, for example, or politics, or public administration, you have, for example, COVID today. What's the problem? A lot of people will say the problem is COVID is preventing me from interacting with my friends, basically because, okay, there is MCO. I am restricted in my movements. I have to observe social distancing, blah, 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 blah. But what actually happened is when you break the rule, straight away you are fined 1,000 ringgit or you are sent to the lockup or whatever. So what's the problem? Some students, some researchers will say the problem of COVID-19 is if I break the rules, I am fined or go to lockup. But what is the problem? That is not the problem. The problem is with COVID, with fines, with restricted movements, it affects the economy as a whole. It affects business and it affects that. So the problem in this research about COVID and its consequences lies in how businesses, the economy, society in terms of interaction are affected. So this is where students, when they think the front end, they come to the middle part, they're still okay. The symptom problem got mixed up. but actually the end process of it, the process of disruption. In this case, COVID disrupted economic, except for political interaction, okay? And
Okay.
that becomes a problem. So that is another example of a field, all right? The third one is very easy. Let's take poverty, for example, all right? You look at vagabonds, homeless sleeping by the roadside, and then you say poverty is because these people do not have shelter. The problem is they do not have shelter. But I look at it differently. Shelter is just a symptom of those without a home to stay in. What is the problem? If these people sleep by the roadside, they are beggars, they are vagabonds. The problem is health related, hygiene related, and society is chaotic because how do you control those situations? So that is the problem. Now, to summarize, what actually happened is students would write in the statement of the problem or problem statement, number one, what they would and should have written in the background of the study, which leads to identification of symptom and problem. Secondly, in the statement of the problem, you will try to avoid quotations, citations of work related to your topic of research because it tends to overshadow your explanation of the problem. And that is why we encourage you to write and cite works on the topic of interest as part of your background of study rather than the problem statement, which essentially must define precisely the relationship between the symptom and the problem of the research, as well as the result and the consequences. In other words, you have the input, the throughput, the output, and the outcome. So, where is the problem? The problem lies in the throughput. The throughput is the process, the productive process that brings in the result or the solutions. So students must be aware, researchers must be aware that in the academic exercise, as well as even a pure research of business interest, unless you hit the problem correctly and explain it precisely, you are giving the wrong solution to what is essentially a symptom rather than the problem. And related to the analogy, if you tell the doctor, I'm sick, and keep repeating, I am sick, without telling that you have a headache, you are vomiting, and you have certain allergies, how can the doctor prescribe you the right solution? That is what I will put it briefly. So be very careful. It is not only a function of identifying the problem, it is a function of separating the symptom from the problem. And thirdly, you must be able to write well. And how do you write well? You don't need to explain the causes. You don't need to explain the reasons why a problem exists. You only need to say, this is the problem. And this problem means if unresolved would lead to consequences. And therefore, to relate it to the end product, all right, when I do a research, the relationship between defining my statement of the problem or defining precisely my problem, I have to say I will have to delve into my research to provide a solution or a couple of suggestions that are not precisely prescribed by other researchers. And therefore, if I produce some solution that would provide a bridge in the gap of my research between my problem statement and my solution provision.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that very insightful information. I'm sure it is going to really help a lot of researchers and a lot of the students. Uh, I have one question from one of my researcher who says that problem statement should have some source and credible data to support. Is it only necessary that the source can be from some source, or can the source be a journal written, an article written on this topic? Can that be a source as well to highlight the problem?
Okay, there are two parts to this question. Number one, as I pointed out, the moment you begin citations of other researchers or works on your problem statement, you will get distracted in explaining and justifying the citations to support your research statement without being explaining your problem at all. Now, whether the citation comes from sources already verified or not, it can come from any other sources, but these cited sources must be quoted in and before the actual statement of the problem. It should be cited as part and parcel of background of the study. And if preceding that there is an introduction paragraph, or we call it overview, it should all be over there. The statement of the problem should not be citing any more sources to support your contention that there is a research problem you are searching on. You are the one telling the people who will read your research, this is the problem that I am interested in resolving when I write my research project, my thesis, my dissertation, and whatever. So sources can be from anywhere else except to be cited because it will deviate the focus from explaining, as I said, what is the problem versus what is the symptom.
Thank you very much, Prof, for clarifying that issue. Another question, Prof, there is from another researcher who says that uh, how big, say, for example, in terms of number of words, is there any guideline that this
Hmm.
should be the statement of the problem? Because some says that it's too long, all can be put as a background.
Hmm.
So your background leading to this problem. So actually, it's a problem statement. Should it be merely a one paragraph of a type of thing, or what should be the exact length approximately which is acceptable?
I am one of the old professors who do not believe in number of words because you will be limited by word count every now and that distracts you from your actual writing. But to be fair, your statement of the problem should be no longer than 2 to 3 paragraphs within one page at the most. But if you are doing double spacing, at the most it should stretch to a maximum of 1.5, 2 pages. Word count, I'm sorry, I cannot give the precise thing, but it for for clarification's sake, I would say paragraph number one, you state the symptom. Paragraph number two, you explain the problem. Paragraph number three, you explain if this problem doesn't get solved, it would lead to the consequences, and this result would lead to the outcome. Just like I said, for example, you say staff turnover, that's a problem, but that's a symptom. The second paragraph is the process of productivity, productive process is disrupted. That one explain that. The other one is the result. Result means productivity is lowered. And the fourth paragraph, you write on what we call the outcome. The client suffers because of delay in delivering of product and so on and so forth. And that goes back as an example. So I would put 4 paragraphs, but don't make your 4 paragraph into 4 pages.
Right. Thank you very much, Prof. And I'm sure this view will definitely help all the researchers who actually link with my channel. And Prof, you'll be very happy to know at the moment the subscription of the channel is approaching almost 630 people globally. And the channel has a view of nearly 15,300 views. So that means that when I get the insight from the YouTube statistics, it shows that from so many part of the globe, that people are actually searching for knowledge, they're searching for right information. And I'm sure the way you have explained today, the problem statement, especially the 4 paragraphs, what it should contain, and rather than words, it should be the expression of the researcher itself who can explain. If they have to have citations, they can all come in the background of the problem, and that is going to make the researcher actually very focused on what they are talking about. So
You give you one last liner. At the
definitely.
end of the background to the problem, there should be a sentence that leads to your statement of the problem. At the end of your 4 paragraphs to the statement of the problem, it should lead to asking a research question and the objective. And that is another pointer on how to systematize your thinking and make sure you precisely know what you are writing about.
Thank you so much, Prof, to have given us the time from your so much busy schedule, and especially at this hour of the evening. And I'm sure with all this information, my followers in the channel, my researchers, they would be very much, benefited. I'm sure they would highly appreciate the thing that you have really told them in such a simpler way, such a big hurdle that you have really clarified so simply. And with that, my dear viewers, uh, we have come to the end of this particular session with our first international guest, Professor Dr. Yu Hock from Malaysia, who has really given us a very good insight of the information about the statement of the problem, which indeed is a problem for most of the researcher, and that's a hurdle whereby you know they need to cross, they need to come out of that hurdle. And I'm sure if you are following these guidelines, I'm sure that you're going to do very well in writing a systematic way of your problem statement and address the problem, as the professor mentioned. At the end, should link it with your research question and research objective specifically, so that the problem statement is in alignment with your research question, and that is in alignment with your research objective. So with no further, uh, we would like to thank our guest today to be here with us. And dear viewers, we'll be soon having our another guest coming up in another of our episode coming up very soon. So thank you for watching the channel, and thank you indeed for liking our channel and viewing and sharing it. And if you have still not subscribed to the channel, please log on to in the YouTube, and please go on to Professor Dr. Asif Mahabub Karim, ABCD, Anybody Can Do Research Methodology, and subscribe, do share, and do like the video, and do comment on what else you want to know, because the channel is all yours. You are the client for whom we are working, and this is, as you know, is a part of my DSR, the digital social responsibility towards the research fraternity globally. So I thank you all for being with us, and thank you, Prof. U, for giving us the time. And we'll be seeing you in some other program very shortly. Thank you
Thank,
very much and good evening and ciao from Prof over
thank you.
here. Take care, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof.
Good night. Yeah.
Good night.